turns out that what many assume about resilience and success, that a smooth, privileged start is essential, is completely backwards. Here's a story of a child born into post-war hardship, battling serious illnesses and a melancholic temperament, who not only survived, but repeatedly reinvented himself across vastly different professional landscapes.
Really? That's quite a twist. We often think success needs a kind of easy launch pad, right? But this flips that on its head.
Exactly. And why does this matter? Because understanding how early adversity, personality, and socioeconomic context interact to shape career trajectories can really inform how we think about talent development, mental health, and lifelong learning in complex environments.
So by the end of this, we're not just hearing a life story, but getting insights into adaptability and how social class and personality influence professional identity over decades.
Right. Let's start with the early years. Born in the northeast of England in the middle of winter 1945, just as World War II was ending. The narrator grew up in Billingham, a working-class industrial town, still recovering from the war's devastation.
That post-war context is crucial. The environment was harsh. Cold winters, rationing, rebuilding, and the health challenges were significant.
Yes, and the childhood illnesses were serious. Bronchial pneumonia, scarlet fever, tonsil, and adenoid removals. These weren't minor ailments. They reflected both the medical limitations of the time and the tough living conditions.
I was struck by the story of the bronchial pneumonia episode, where the child threw a blanket onto an electric fire, which smoldered, and the doctor thought recovery was unlikely. Yet somehow, the smoke cleared the congestion and recovery happened.
That's wild, isn't it? It shows both the fragility and resilience of early life. Plus, the introduction of penicillin was a game changer, improving survival rates dramatically.
But beyond the physical, the psychological impact was profound. The scarlet fever isolation, for example, being quarantined in a sealed room, with people staring through a viewing window, and then being taken home alone in an ambulance because the parents had no transport.
That kind of isolation at a young age can really shape a melancholic temperament, introspective, sensitive, sometimes socially withdrawn. The narrator even notes that both he and his mother shared this melancholic nature.
And family dynamics added complexity. Both parents worked hard. The father cycling miles daily to a steelworks job, the mother working in retail, first in a family-run shoe shop, then managing another store. This made the narrator one of the early latchkey children, left to his own devices after school, which was often frowned upon socially.
Right, and the extended family played a big role. Aunt Hilda, the mother's sister, was a frequent caregiver. She was described as a bit crazy and fun, a contrast to the otherwise strict and sometimes harsh upbringing.
That chaotic but loving environment probably offered some emotional refuge. Plus, the stories about relatives, like the prank wars between Aunt Hilda and her brother Leslie, or the war stories from Charlie, the dispatch rider, paint a rich social tapestry.
It's a vivid example of how health, family structure, and socioeconomic conditions intertwine to influence personality development and coping mechanisms.
Moving on to education. The narrator started at a small primary school with traditional teaching but some encouragement of creativity. There was an interesting early intervention, being moved up a year at age 9, then returned to the original cohort later.
That's right. It was an experiment that, while socially awkward, actually helped by expanding peer networks. Then came the 11+ exam, a key gateway in the British education system.
But instead of going to the local grammar school in Stockton, the narrator was redirected to Henry Smith Grammar School in Hartlepool, which was culturally and socially very different.
That relocation exposed him to the harsh realities of class-based streaming and social stratification. The working-class children from mining and shipbuilding areas had distinct dialects and cultural norms leading to alienation and bullying.
The grammar school system back then was deeply flawed, especially for working-class students. Science and technology education was limited, despite the narrator's growing interest in those fields.
And then there was the psychosomatic loss of eyesight just before the O-levels, likely stress-induced. An optician made special glasses, and remarkably, the eyesight returned a few months later.
That really underscores the intense pressures students faced navigating rigid educational systems. Yet despite all this, the narrator excelled academically, taking advanced S-level exams and becoming one of the early working-class entrants to university.
That was a significant marker of social mobility at the time. It's a reminder of how education policy, class, and individual psychological resilience intersect.
I also loved the anecdotes from those years. The rock band formed with schoolmates, playing regularly at a local pub, earning £8 a night, which all went back into equipment.
Yeah, the Raiders, a Shadows copy group. It's a nice touch showing how music was a constant thread even then.
So after university, the career started in the paper trade with Wiggins Teep, moving through various industrial sites.
The role involved work study and operational research, time motion studies, incentive schemes, classic post-war industrial management techniques.
The narrator had to negotiate with unions, manage incentive payroll systems, and even conduct confidential studies on warehousing and distribution using early computing tech like punch cards and teleprinters.
That's fascinating. The tension between management and workforce was palpable. Older workers resisted time motion studies, seeing them as exploitative.
And the change in general manager led to a restrictive environment that stifled creativity, prompting the narrator to reconsider a management career.
It highlights how personnel mix and management style are vital for success. Without the right environment, even skilled managers can feel constrained.
Then came the retail era at Marks & Spencer in the early 70s. A big shift.
Yes, merchandising at M&S was high pressure, linking suppliers and stores, with rapid departmental changes. The narrator even modeled products like swimwear and raincoats.
The spinning top management metaphor was brilliant. The board puts pressure at the top, middle management runs around executing tasks, and the result just plops out at the bottom.
The chairman, Marcus Seif, was a terror, personally confronting merchandisers about stock shortages. It was a vivid example of top-down pressure.
After turning down a factory manager role due to family reasons, the narrator moved into freelance consultancy, applying work-study skills to diverse problems.
A significant contract was with the Open University, analyzing administrative processes and managing the computer data center.
That marked a pivot toward technology and academia, but it also took a personal toll. The strain contributed to the failure of the first marriage.
The Open University era introduced new musical collaborations too, with jazz bands and recording.
Then, in the mid-'80s, the narrator embraced a full-time academic role, teaching computing and managing mobile presentation facilities for Luton University.
The academic environment was culturally challenging, especially given the narrator's melancholic personality and the eclectic social circles of the second marriage.
Meeting Isabella was pivotal. They became life partners and professional collaborators, working freelance on projects like telephone system audits for the NHS.
That project saved the Health Authority £250,000 by installing a sophisticated call monitoring program.
Impressive. The academic phase was marked by continuous learning, teaching qualifications, an MSc in Learning Technology, and a Doctorate of Professional Studies.
It shows how academic careers evolved in the late 20th century, blending teaching, research, and consultancy, often intertwined with personal complexities.
Later life brought retirement, home refurbishment, gardening, and renewed musical pursuits.
The lifelong passion for music, from early rock bands to jazz ensembles, and eventually joining the Halcyon Days Band, illustrates the role of creative outlets in well-being.
Then came COVID and health crises, including Isabella's stroke, which affected mobility and speech but not cognitive sharpness.
Despite these challenges, they maintain quality of life through mutual support and adaptation.
So, what do you think is the key takeaway from this life story?
For me, it's that resilience and success are not about a smooth start or privilege. It's about navigating adversity, adapting to change, and reinventing oneself across different contexts.
I agree. It also challenges simplistic narratives, showing a complex, non-linear path shaped by socioeconomic forces, personality, health, and evolving professional landscapes.
And it reminds us that life is meant to be hard, but with persistence and openness to change, meaningful and fulfilling outcomes are possible.
Absolutely. It's a rich case study for anyone interested in social history, psychology, organizational studies, or lifelong learning.
And it's peppered with vivid details: the goalkeeper gown in hospital, the motorbike repair adventure, the spinning top management metaphor that bring the story to life.
Those anecdotes really help ground the complex themes in relatable experiences.
So in the end, it's a story of determination, adaptability, and the search for meaning despite hardship.
And that's something we can all learn.